Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we're going to look at the GD900 portable radios from the company GoCom. Now GoCom is a manufacturer of portable radios, walkie-talkies, different sets. This one here they're calling sort of the business radio, a little bit ruggedized, and in my opinion, pretty much intended for, I would say, like commercial use around maybe a retail environment, maybe a maintenance environment, something inside a facility. This is not going to be your long-range option, so a little bit more for, general proximity, covering a reasonable range, but from a mile of distance or less, something like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through these features in detail so you can see kind of what is packed into these little radios. Then I'm going to do a general function test so you can see sort of the limitations in the range for these radios. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now, before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at GoCom who did provide this product for review. Now again, GoCom being a company who makes nice quality walkie-talkies and portable radios. So these are the GD900, again, a little more towards general commercial use. Now, I'm going to premise this entire video by saying I am absolutely not your go-to reference for the overall features in a walkie-talkie or portable radio. It's not really my specialty, but this is an opportunity for me to start to get into this particular genre of products. And so the GD900, where is this going to fit? Well, for me personally and my needs, I do typically go into the mountains. I do typically need something that's going to have a little bit further range potentially, and especially if I'm with a group of people. But these, they do have a place for me. I have to say, my wife is literally always just yelling at me across my entire property. So when I'm out in the yard and doing work and she needs to get a hold of me, typically she just opens the door and yells. That just does not work the best for me nor the neighbors. And so having a radio like this that's a little bit ruggedized, has nice clear signal, and it's really intended for around a campus environment, this is going to work out kind of nice. Now these are feature packed. The first thing, they are analog or digital. They have a number of different sequences, so depending on what you need to do for your teams, you can set this up with groups, you can set this up with contacts. It's pretty in-depth, all the way through even setting small, unique little text messages that you can zip back and forth. So it really is a quick communication tool for people in that type of environment. And as you turn these on, you'll see this nice LED right on the front. So the screen, nice and large, very clear, just an excellent screen overall. And you can see right away, so zone 1, this knob here on the left-hand side, changing your signal. So again, here's your channel. So in zone 1, I have all my different channels, and this is jam-packed. It basically has 32 zones, each of which have 16 channels assigned to them. So if you have groups or different zones or areas where you need to work, you can absolutely fine-tune this to what you need to do. This might actually be a great option for construction companies. A team of people that need to work in different zones, you can use this to scan. So it can scan all your different zones, it can scan the different channels. And so if you were, call it like a team leader, or you had people working beneath you and you needed to communicate effectively, I could see this being fantastic for the construction industry. Now again, keep in mind, like I said, I am not necessarily the most proficient when it comes to two-way radios like this. Now, this definitely has what's called direct mode. What is direct mode? I'm not entirely sure, but the other question I have is, well, what type of radio is this? Is this FRS, which stands for the Family Radio Service, or is it GMRS, which is General Mobile Radio Service? So just in like layman's terms, FRS is pretty much like walkie-talkie. So radio to radio, it has limited range, limited power, generally like 2 watts or less, and typically a range of like 0.5 miles. But GMRS, well, that leverages base station radios and repeaters, and depending on where you are, you could have like 5, 10, 30-mile ranges with a handheld radio like this. So I'm not entirely sure which type of radio this is, and the biggest part of that conversation is, well, most FRS radios do not need the FCC license, where GMRS definitely does. So my question is, like, do I technically need a license to use this radio? That's where I'm a little bit confused, and that's where I'm definitely concerned. However, I did want to get a little bit of field testing underway. So with that said, let's turn this over to a little bit of field testing. All right, hey buddy, I'm out in the driveway. Can you hear me clear?
Yes, I can hear you very clear.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. All right, I'm going to move. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Sounds good.
So I'm out here with the GoCom walkie-talkie. I'm about 1.7 miles out. So I'm trying to figure out the range that this can actually pick up. Now, in the instructions, it says about a mile, so I wanted to start a little bit outside of that range. I have my son on the other side of this transmission. Now at this point, if you see, I press. Brandon, can you come in? Do you reach? Hello? Brandon, can you hear me? It's not going to go to him. I'm outside of the effective range of this particular radio model. However, I am trying to test this to see about how far we can go and actually start to pick up signals. So as I drive, we'll see how this goes. Brandon, can you hear me? Come in, over. Now at this point, I still wouldn't expect to necessarily have him picking up the frequency here. So I'm going to take a couple of turns. As I get closer and closer back towards my house, we'll see when he actually picks up. Brandon, come in. Can you hear me? So I do have this set on the high power mode. Hopefully this will help. There is a high and a low power mode, but high power mode hopefully going to be enough to kind of send the signal at least as far as it possibly can. There aren't any other physical impediments, no real mountains or hills or anything worth worrying about here, so it's pretty much straight line communication. But let's test this again. Brandon, can you hear me? Come in. As I continue to work closer towards my house, I'm getting to about within a 1 mile range, pretty darn close at this point. Brandon, come in. Can you hear me? Now at this point, I am definitely within a 1 mile range. I know that for a fact. Let's give this a try. See if he can pick me up. Brandon, can you hear me? I'm about a mile away. Can you hear me? Over. Brandon, I'm at the road to your school. Can you hear me? Over.
It's a little choppy.
All right, that's good. But you picked me up. You can hear me now?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Is it clear? Can you hear me? I can hear you just fine.
I can hear you fine now. It was just a little friendly earlier.
Okay. Yeah, so you picked me up at about roughly the road to your school. I'm going to go back there and test it again.
Okay, sounds good.
Brandon, can you hear me? Come in.
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, I heard it. You said loud and clear? Say it again.
Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Do me a favor, stay on the line. I'm going to keep talking to you for just a second here, just to see if it starts to break up. And maybe as I get further and further away, at some point we're going to lose signal. Can you still hear me pretty clear here?
Say that again.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hold the button down longer. Can you hear me?
It's super staticky now.
So I think that's a good test. I mean, that is truly the edge of the effective range for this particular radio. We literally were at the edge of the range. It was very clear, and at that point, completely drops out. So I know pretty much to the, I would say like within 15 or 20 yards. at this point what this radio is capable of doing, so that was a pretty effective test. Brandon, come in. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mic check.
I can hear you, but it's super choppy and very staticky.
Keep the button down. Keep talking to me.
Okay. It's super staticky, super choppy, and that's pretty much it.
Keep talking to me. Keep coming. Keep talking to me. Don't stop. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Say that again. It broke up.
Are you there? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Whatever you just said, I could not hear you.
Hold the button down longer. Keep talking. Don't stop.
Okay.
Are you still talking? I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm talking. Sorry.
Okay. I can hear you now. Can you hear me clear?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Alright, I'm heading home. I'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
Now, as you can see there, finding the overall distance. Now, that was, in essence, 3,200 feet of range. And so 0.6 of a mile, well, I mean, again, it depends on a number of things and how this radio is set. Now, if it's in the high watt mode, which is 4-watt radio, that should be GMRS. But where it only had about 0.5 miles of signal, it makes me think maybe it was FRS. And so both working in the same frequency ranges, in ballpark the 462 to 467 megahertz range. And so my testing was done on channel 1, which is 464.50 megahertz. And so that was the testing, and that was pretty much the extent of what I did to test the radio. And now I certainly could be wrong, but if you look at this, right now it says I have literally no signal. Same with this radio. However, the minute I press it, well, now it goes to 4 full bars. So it makes me feel like whether it's the direct mode or the, call it, I don't know, FRS mode, it makes me think that this is not necessarily requiring the license. But again, I'm such a novice, it just puts me in a position to get in trouble and to not really know what I'm getting into. Now again, the GD900, this is definitely a nice ruggedized radio. It's fairly durable, which is going to be nice again for, construction work or people who aren't very careful, sort of throw these around. I'm pretty careful with my stuff no matter what, and especially if I'm going to be leveraging this when I need it. I mean, I want it to work, so I'm probably not going to bang mine around too much, but you certainly could. These are also IP65 water resistant rated, so I mean, not completely waterproof, but damn nice and water repellent. Now, what I think is interesting is you do have the ability on the side here to either add a microphone or some earphones, or like an external mic. But the other thing that's interesting is this is also how you leverage a USB cable for what's called CPS programming. So basically you can plug this into a computer, it accesses the little database inside the radio, and at that point, you have the ability to reprogram this. So you can reprogram your zones and your groups and your contacts, even you can see I keep accidentally leaning on the button. That's very sensitive. But you can also program these buttons here, so this one and this one. That can be emergency. So there are a number of things that you can do to program this if you get the programming cable and you plug this into a PC. But personally for me, I'm probably not going to do that, and especially where I don't know if this is FRS or GMRS at this point. And so the other thing that I don't understand about these radios is how the channel works. Like for example, when I go here to channel 1, well, you'll see it's calling for 464.50 megahertz. Now, moving forward, when I go to the FCC website, channel 1 calls for 462.55. I don't quite completely understand that. And that's for GMRS. But for FRS, also calling for 462.5625 at 2 watts of power max. Now, again, that just has me confused because, again, my channels just don't line up with what's reported in their tables. And, is that because the radio's off? If I was to go into the back end and look at the CPS programming, do I have to change that? I'm just confused. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up. And that just further speaks to my lack of knowledge on this particular topic. Now, each one of these radios was sold separately. I got a sort of, call it a 2-pack, but only because they sent 2 radios. I do not believe they sell multi-packs of these, and each one does come with a charger. So this is basically a simple wall plug that plugs in here. These sit nicely down and into this base, so no problem. And these charge the walkie-talkie. So the radio's easily charged here. When you do that, if it's not charged, the light will turn red. When it is charged, it will turn green. And everything did come from the beginning, completely disassembled. So for example, the antenna, which I believe this is standard. So if you have different antennas, you could potentially use this with other antennas. The clip did come fully disassembled. You basically install it with a couple of screws here, and then the battery. So the battery also coming separate, and you can see as I slide it out, here is your battery. So just some basic information. This is a 2000 milliamp hour battery. Hard to say exactly how long this will last. I guess it depends how much you're actually using it and how much the radio is on standby. And then inside here, a little hard to see with the clip, but you do end up with some of your model information here. And I believe all of this is FCC requirement. So there are requirements for how everything needs to be labeled and identified and clearly found. And all of the documentation for this radio can be found on the FCC website. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There is a full database of literally all the radios and their compliance and some of the details associated with them. So this is literally completely detailed on the FCC website. Now, the one thing we didn't test as we did our testing, we were testing the digital mode. So when you turn this on and you scroll through the modes, one thing you will notice is the first 8 channels. So here, channel 1, digital, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are digital. And then moving forward here, well, channel 9, analog, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 analog channels. So we tested a digital channel for signal strength and distance. We did not check the analog. So just curious to people's sort of experience, which is better, the digital or the analog signal. And the other thing, pretty much as a newbie, I believe that each one of these channels is going to have a different output. So some of them have a higher strength than others. So if you are like a seasoned veteran, you may say, well, you're better off using whatever, 1 through 4 versus 4 through 8. Or on the analog channels, using 8 through 12 versus whatever, 13 through 16, or so on and so forth. So again, just more considerations and things I definitely need to learn about. And so this, for me, the GD900 from GoCom, definitely a place to start and dabble in this sort of, and I'm not going to say radio hobby, but definitely the radio genre. I would say anybody who's into everyday carry or prepping, commercial applications, construction. I mean, there is a need for radios. For me, I'm just an outdoor enthusiast. I love learning about new things, new genres, new products. And so to the people at GoCom, thank you for providing these for review. I still need to do my homework. I still need to learn more about this. But that's why I post a video like this. So if you have experience with radios like this and you can weigh in, do me a favor, please weigh in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And so I am definitely excited to try these out further. It's going to take more research. This is something, unlike many of the other things that I do on this channel, that I can't just like go at it. It requires potentially a license and filing with the FCC and paying fees and all kinds of stuff that, I mean, how far do I want to go with it? How practical is this for me? How much am I going to use these? I mean, bottom line is, if I got my license, I probably would try to use these. I mean, at least at that point, I feel legitimized and I'm following the rules and I'm doing everything I need to do to get these radios into good, serviceable condition, following the law, following all the rules and regulations of the FCC, because the last thing I want to find out is I have a $10,000 fine that, you know, because I'm messing around. And, you know, to me, that's a little bit of a liability, but that comes with the territory. So with that said, this is it for now. And so if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the firearms and tactical side of things. That channel is growing quickly. I have a ton of content on that channel. So if you like the content you see on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.